All right, let's open up the ultimate cold case of human history today. We are looking at an ancient, enduring mystery that has honestly captivated our imaginations for millennia. We're diving deep into the history of humanity's absolute greatest question, the possibility of alien life.
It's arguably the oldest question that has haunted us, right? Are we truly alone? Since the very beginning of civilization, way before satellites or space travel were even a concept, our ancestors were looking up at the night sky with absolute wonder. They tracked the seasons, they navigated oceans by the stars. But hidden among those routine observations were stories that stand out as, highly unusual. Stories of glowing objects, stories of flying chariots. So we really have to ask ourselves, what if humanity's oldest stories weren't just myths at all? Were these accounts just pure imagination, or were our ancestors attempting to describe something entirely beyond human understanding?
So, here is our roadmap for today's explainer. We're going to trace this timeline from 3000 BC and ancient Sumerian observations, move through the massive astronomical shifts of the 16th century, and go right up to the mind-bending paradoxes facing modern science today. Section 1. Clues in Clay and Stone. The Ancient Sumerians. We're beginning our investigation more than 5,000 years ago in ancient Mesopotamia. Nestled right between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, the Sumerians pretty much laid the foundations of human society. We're talking creating laws, developing writing, building the very first cities. But if you look at their foundational religious texts, they vividly describe these powerful beings known as the Anunnaki. According to these ancient clay tablets, these entities literally came down from the heavens and played a crucial role in shaping civilization. They supposedly passed down vital, advanced knowledge to early humans, things like agriculture, astronomy, mathematics, and incredibly complex engineering. And this is exactly where the core debate splits the field right down the middle. On one side, you have modern alien theorists who interpret these ancient stories as literal evidence. To them, these were extraterrestrial visitors bringing advanced tech to Earth. But on the flip side, the consensus of mainstream historians strongly disagrees. Most scholars view the Anunnaki purely as mythological gods, just symbolic stories meant to explain how civilization started. In this explainer, we have to neutrally weigh both of these interpretations, because honestly, this debate is still raging today, and the mystery is very much alive.
Section 2. Egypt and the Stars. Monumental Mysteries.
Very few civilizations inspire more awe and mystery than ancient Egypt. When you look at the Great Pyramid of Giza, we're talking massive stone blocks, some weighing several tons, transported and assembled with unbelievable precision thousands of years ago. You just have to ask, did humanity build this entirely alone? Interestingly, the ancient Egyptians themselves attributed a lot of their knowledge to divine forces connected to the sky and the stars. Some researchers argue that the highly specific astronomical alignments of Egyptian monuments point to advanced, maybe even external knowledge. Now, the majority of archaeologists firmly maintain that this simply demonstrates extraordinary human ingenuity. But because no definitive evidence has ever proven extraterrestrial involvement, the sheer, unimaginable scale of the achievement keeps the question alive for all of us.
Section 3. The Mystery of the Vimanas, Ancient India's Texts. Moving far to the east, we find some of the world's oldest surviving texts. Epic narratives, like the Mahabharata and the Ramayana, vividly describe these incredible flying machines called vimanas. And the accounts vary wildly. Some texts describe them as literal flying palaces, while others detail highly maneuverable aerial vehicles capable of traveling vast distances. Just like with the Sumerians, these descriptions leave modern readers sharply divided. Are these purely symbolic myths, or could they preserve fragmented memories of misunderstood phenomena and lost technology? Alien theorists often point to the vimanas as prime evidence of advanced ancient visitors, whereas mainstream historians maintain they are entirely mythological.
Section 4. Sky Gods Across the World, a Global Tapestry. What makes this whole subject so compelling is that we aren't just looking at isolated, one-off incidents. Indigenous traditions in North America speak of star beings. Legends in South America describe gods arriving directly from the heavens. Across Africa, Asia, Europe, and the Pacific Islands, ancient narratives repeatedly, almost obsessively connect divine beings with the sky. Now, skeptics will argue that this is just human nature, that we naturally associate the unreachable, awe-inspiring sky with gods. But supporters of the extraterrestrial hypothesis ask a genuinely fair question. Why are these specific celestial themes so remarkably universal? What actually inspired identical narratives across entirely unconnected continents? Section 5. The Shift to Science. Redefining the Cosmos. For most of human history, all of this remained completely in the realm of philosophical speculation and religious belief. But then, a massive conceptual shift happened. In the 16th century, early astronomers began using telescopes, and science changed everything. This was the turning point. Suddenly, the Earth was no longer considered the center of the universe. The cosmos was revealed to be vastly larger than anyone had ever imagined. And just like that, the alien question transitioned from ancient mythology straight into the realm of hard science. And it really all comes down to this staggering number: trillions. As centuries passed, our telescopes revealed not just countless stars, but countless entire galaxies. The math became absolutely undeniable. We are talking billions of stars, billions of planets, and possibly trillions of worlds. So, confronted with trillions of potential worlds, scientists were forced to ask a deeply serious, strictly mathematical question. If the conditions for life emerged naturally here on our planet, isn't it highly probable that it could emerge somewhere else out there? The breathtaking, literal scale of the universe made the existence of alien life seem mathematically likely. In fact, many would argue, inevitable.
Section 6. The Great Silence. The Fermi Paradox.
But as our scientific understanding expanded and our telescopes looked deeper and deeper into space, it created one of the most fascinating contradictions in astrophysics. A problem known as the Fermi Paradox. The universe is clearly large enough and definitely old enough to support countless intelligent civilizations. The math tells us the cosmos should literally be teeming with life. And yet, we found zero confirmed evidence of extraterrestrial intelligence. We listened to the stars, and essentially, we're being completely ghosted by the universe. There is just a great, vast silence.
It all boils down to this incredibly simple yet profound question. If they are out there, where are they? This is the ultimate cold case of our modern era. We have the motive and the exact right opportunity for life to exist everywhere, but absolutely no suspects. Scientists have proposed several possible answers to the Fermi paradox. And I gotta say, as you go down the list, it builds a very unique kind of tension. Perhaps the spark of intelligent life is just mathematically extremely rare. Or, well, maybe advanced civilizations inevitably destroy themselves once they unlock certain powerful technologies. Maybe they're just too distant for our current primitive instruments to detect. Or, the final, most chilling possibility. Perhaps they are already here, quietly observing us. These answers really force us to seriously reconsider our own fragile place in the universe.
Connecting our ancient clues carved in Sumerian clay all the way to the vast, mathematically confusing silence of modern space, we're left wondering what those earliest humans actually saw. For thousands of years, we've been telling stories of beings from the sky. Are these stories simply products of our imagination, or do they contain fragments of a deeper truth that's just been lost to history?
And that brings us to the end of our foundational look at this ancient mystery, but the story is really only beginning. In part 2 of this explainer, we're going to move from these ancient legends straight into the modern era. We'll be looking at the shocking rise of UFO sightings, secret government investigations, and mysterious military encounters that transformed aliens from an ancient myth into a modern global phenomenon. Until then, I want to leave you with this final provocative question to chew on. Are they already here? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep looking up.
Picture this. It's a crystal clear summer day in 1947. You're flying a private plane over the rugged mountains of Washington state, and suddenly you see something that just shouldn't be there. Well, that is exactly what happened to private pilot Kenneth Arnold. He reported spotting these strange objects ripping through the sky at literally unbelievable speeds. And his exact description? He said they moved like a saucer skipping across water. You know how the media is, right? Newspapers immediately grabbed hold of that exact phrase, and overnight, a brand new term was coined, the flying saucer. And just like that, humanity's greatest modern mystery had officially taken flight. So, welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're opening up the case files to objectively trace the whole evolution of the UFO phenomenon. We're going to look at how this entire topic transformed from this wild mid-century public panic, fueled mostly by newspapers and Hollywood, into a matter of very real military scrutiny, and eventually rigorous scientific inquiry. We're getting past the Hollywood mythos and diving into the documented history. Here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with how the flying saucer era began, move into Roswell and the resulting panic, check out the official military investigations, dive into abductions and psychology, explore Area 51 and the Cold War, and finally, look at how the scientific search really kicked off. Okay,
Part 1. The flying saucer era begins. The summer of 1947 changes history.
That summer of 1947 was absolutely the spark that got everyone, from ordinary citizens to top military brass, looking up at the sky in total shock. And 9 is the magic number here, because when Kenneth Arnold made that historic report we just talked about, he didn't just see one unidentified object. He saw 9 of them, flying in a tight formation. That highly specific report basically opened the floodgates. Following Arnold's sighting, hundreds of people all across America started calling in their own strange encounters. Discs, spheres, giant triangles, glowing lights, you name it. Now, sure, many of those were eventually explained away as weird weather effects or misidentified planes. But the sheer volume of reports, it meant that for the first time ever, the concept of alien visitors had firmly planted itself in popular culture. Moving on to part 2, Roswell and the Panic, the incidents that sparked global speculation. So this is where things shift from scattered, random public sightings to highly publicized, localized incidents that essentially backed the military into a corner. They had to respond. And the messaging pivot here is wild. In 1947, the military puts out a press release saying out loud that they recovered a flying disc on a ranch in New Mexico. But literally hours later, they completely backtrack. Now, suddenly, it's just a weather balloon. Decades later, the government clarified that the debris was actually from a highly classified Cold War surveillance program called Project Mogul. Now, historians generally accept the Project Mogul explanation today, but that chaotic 180-degree flip in the initial messaging, that fueled decades of intense speculation. Add in witnesses later claiming they saw non-human bodies and bizarre wreckage, and you can see why researchers still fiercely debate the official story to this day. 5 years after Roswell, the panic arrived literally at the doorstep of the U.S. government. The 1952 Washington UFO flap was a real game changer. We're not talking about a lone farmer seeing a strange light in the field anymore. Radar operators were tracking highly unusual targets near restricted airspace right over Washington, D.C. Fighter pilots were scrambled to intercept. You had multiple credible witnesses, both on the ground and up in the air, describing these strange maneuvering lights. Because this incident combined hard radar hits with highly trained military witnesses, it exploded into international news. It was completely impossible for the public to just ignore it anymore. Which brings us to part 3. Official investigations. The U.S. military steps in to find the truth. With all this public pressure mounting, plus a very real fear that these UFOs might actually be advanced Soviet technology, the Air Force had to escalate the response. They started in 1948 with Project Sign, which eventually morphed into Project Grudge. But the big one, the one you've probably heard of, launched in 1952, Project Bluebug. This was a massive organized operation that ran for 17 years. Investigators combed through thousands of reports, interviewed witnesses, looked at photos, and analyzed radar data, all to figure out if there was a genuine national security threat up there. So, what was the grand takeaway after 17 years of digging? Well, the vast majority of cases in Project Blue Book ended up with entirely conventional earthly explanations. We're talking regular aircraft, weather balloons, stars, planets, and weird atmospheric phenomena. When they finally closed up shop in 1969, the official conclusion was clear. UFOs posed no threat to national security, and they found absolutely zero proof of extraterrestrial origins. But, as you can probably guess, try telling that to a public already convinced the government is hiding the truth. The skepticism remained incredibly high. All right, part 4. Abductions and psychology. The 1960s shift to personal encounters. By the 1960s, the whole phenomenon underwent this radical, very personal transformation. We went from people pointing at distant glowing lights in the sky to these incredibly intimate and sometimes really traumatic personal encounters. The turning point was 1961. Betty and Barney Hill are driving through New Hampshire, and they report seeing a strange object. But the story doesn't end there. They later describe experiencing hours of missing time, and under hypnosis, recalled terrifying memories of being subjected to mysterious medical exams aboard an unknown craft. Their story became a massive, highly publicized catalyst. Soon after, thousands of people all over the world started coming forward with shockingly similar claims involving mysterious beings and lost time. Naturally, experts stepped in to try and make sense of these really intense personal accounts.
Psychologists started proposing mechanisms that, honestly, you might have even experienced yourself at some point. Things like sleep paralysis, the very real phenomenon of false memories, and extreme stress-related hallucinations. And why this is so important to keep in mind is because it highlights the unbelievable power of the human mind. While some people firmly argue that these accounts are genuine physical encounters, others see them as profound psychological events. To be totally impartial here in our explainer, we have to note that there is still no universally accepted answer. The debate surrounding the psychology of abduction claims is just as hot today as it was back then.
Let's look at Part 5, Area 51 and the Cold War. The culture of secrecy fuels the legend.
You really can't understand the modern alien era without venturing deep into the Nevada desert. We have to look at how the government's own intense culture of secrecy inadvertently created the ultimate UFO mythos. Look at the total contrast here. The myth? The government is secretly storing alien spacecraft and running reverse engineering programs in the desert. The factual reality? That base was actually a testing ground for highly classified Cold War technologies. Think the U-2 spy plane and early stealth aircraft. But because the government flat out refused to even acknowledge the base existed for decades, it created this massive information vacuum. And in that vacuum, speculation just thrived. People would see these weird, impossible-looking experimental aircraft, the government would say, "Nothing to see here," and boom, the legend of a massive alien cover-up was born. When we zoom out and look at the big picture, your biggest takeaway here should really be the strict definition of the word unidentified. If an object is unidentified, it simply means investigators cannot determine its origin with absolute certainty. It does not automatically mean it's a spaceship from another galaxy. While most reports across the globe had completely ordinary explanations, a small percentage just remained, well, unexplained. So why did those specific cases stay unexplained? Well, the Cold War blurred all the lines. During this incredibly high-stakes era of global espionage, the US and the Soviet Union were constantly, obsessively monitoring each other. So imagine a civilian or a commercial pilot spots a bizarre, highly classified experimental weapon or a new spy plane. Governments were completely trapped. They couldn't just come out and say, "Oh, don't worry, that's just our new top-secret spy plane," because that would immediately expose their classified projects to their enemies. This dynamic fundamentally eroded public trust and made transparent, honest UFO investigations nearly impossible worldwide.
And finally, Part 6, the scientific search begins, looking for answers in the stars.
Leaving all that atmospheric chaos and military secrecy behind, actual astrophysicists began asking the big fundamental question: could alien life actually exist out there in the universe? To find out, programs like SETI, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, were launched. And unlike those military UFO investigations, SETI relies entirely on a strict, very methodical four-step scientific approach. Step 1, find empirical evidence. Step 2, detect a cosmic radio signal. Step 3, decode a message. And Step 4, verify a true technological signature. They aren't chasing blurry lights in the sky. They are searching for undeniable, hard proof that humanity is not alone. Now, it's important to note, despite decades of scanning the cosmos, no confirmed alien signal has been detected yet. But that scientific search continues, quietly, every single night. So, as we close out the 20th century in our investigation, we're really left to wonder, what does this all mean? Are UFOs evidence of extraterrestrial visitors? Are they simply secret human technology that we were never meant to see? Or are they just complex natural phenomena we haven't quite figured out yet? The 20th century couldn't give us a definitive answer, but the story absolutely doesn't end there. In our next explainer, we're going to cross over into the 21st century, an era of leaked military footage, insanely advanced radar systems, and jaw-dropping Navy encounters that bring this whole mystery closer to home than ever before. It's a real game changer, and you definitely won't want to miss it. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you in the next explainer. You know, for decades, the whole idea of visitors from the stars was pushed squarely into the realm of rumors, misunderstandings, or just wild conspiracy theories. But today, we're diving into how humanity's greatest mystery dramatically shifted from those fringe theories to verified, high-level military investigations. The conversation has absolutely changed, and we're going to break down exactly how that happened. Because the question isn't whether people are reporting these phenomena anymore. The real question is what happens when the most powerful organizations on Earth stop looking away and actually start digging for the truth. That's what we're looking at today. What happens when that massive shift from denial to actual investigation takes place? All right, let's start with part 1, the modern aerial mystery. So as we rolled into the 2000s, a lot of experts assumed that better technology would finally make all these unexplained sightings just disappear for good. I mean, we had advanced radar systems, high-resolution cameras, incredibly sensitive infrared sensors, and this huge network of military satellites. Humanity literally had never possessed such sophisticated tools to monitor our skies. But here's the twist. Instead of solving the mystery, these advanced tools actually proved that objects hovering without visible propulsion and then accelerating suddenly, they were very, very real. The evidence didn't vanish at all. It was just captured in way higher definition than ever before.
Moving on to part 2, encounters and leaked evidence.
Let's compress about 20 years of hidden history into this astonishing public awakening. We're going to start with the famous 2004 USS Nimitz incident, then move into the late 2010s, which is when those incredible military videos leaked to the public, and finally arrive in the 2020s, an era really defined by groundbreaking congressional hearings. Let's zoom in on that 2004 event for a second. During military exercises off the coast of Southern California, radar operators on the USS Nimitz tracked these highly unusual objects dropping rapidly from extremely high altitudes straight toward the ocean. Naturally, fighter jets were scrambled. Pilots, including Commander David Fravor, approached the location and reported seeing this completely inexplicable white object just hovering above the water. It quickly became known as the Tic Tac because of its shape. It was smooth, oblong, with absolutely no wings, no visible exhaust, and no obvious propulsion system whatsoever. Yet it maneuvered in ways that completely defied all known aerodynamics. I mean, it's mind-blowing. Which brings us to part 3, Out of the Shadows. Now, for years, the public was entirely in the dark about encounters like the Tic Tac. But, well, it turns out the government actually had a secretly funded program. They were neutrally investigating these objects in military airspace, regardless of where they came from. It was called ATIP, or the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program. The Department of Defense wasn't out there chasing science fiction, right? Their mission was to analyze these unusual aerial encounters to figure out if they represented potential national security threats. Whether it was foreign tech or something else entirely, they realized these objects required serious, objective investigation. And notice the really crucial terminology shift here. Moving from the term UFO to UAP brilliantly shifted the whole topic away from science fiction assumptions and pushed it towards structured, fact-based investigation. UFO implies a flying object, right, like a spacecraft. But UAP, which stands for Unidentified Anomalous Phenomena, simply acknowledges an observable fact. There is a phenomenon occurring, and we just can't immediately identify it. That little semantic shift, it changed the entire scientific and military approach. So by the 2020s, the conversation reached unprecedented heights. Lawmakers started demanding transparency and real data collection regarding our airspace. We saw these historic, highly public congressional hearings. For the very first time, military and former intelligence personnel were testifying openly. They were raising some urgent questions about national security and airspace safety. And the overwhelming consensus? A massive demand for evidence-based investigations rather than just maintaining secrecy. All right, part 4. What are these objects? With the military finally admitting these phenomena are real, investigators generally break the primary suspects down into 4 main possibilities. First up, misidentification. Even the most advanced sensors can suffer from camera distortions or optical illusions, right? Second, classified technology. Think highly experimental drones developed by earthly governments. Third, natural phenomena, like poorly understood atmospheric effects. And finally, extraterrestrial technology. Now look, while there is currently no conclusive public evidence for extraterrestrial origins, the fascinating truth is that not every single case can be fully explained by misidentification, earthly tech, or natural phenomena alone. Some still totally defy explanation. This takes us to part 5, the cosmic context. To truly grasp that 4th possibility, the extraterrestrial one, we need to look at the broader picture and zoom way out from our own atmosphere to the macro-level mystery of the universe itself. Because while governments were busy tracking UAPs down here on Earth, astronomers were making a staggering discovery looking outward. They were locating literally thousands of actual planets orbiting distant stars. The reality here is that planets aren't rare at all. They are everywhere. And more importantly, a lot of them sit right in the habitable zone. If you aren't familiar, that's the specific area around a star where conditions are just right for liquid water to potentially exist, meaning they sit right in the sweet spot where life as we know it might actually thrive. Discovering these exoplanets totally transformed the whole debate. It shifted from wondering if we have neighbors to wondering just how many there might be. We know planets exist outside our solar system now. The profound question we're facing today is, how common is life out there? And if it is common, how often does intelligence actually emerge? Which brings us to part 6, the Great Cosmic Silence. Zooming out to this massive, universe-sized scale brings us to a somewhat chilling yet profound reality. Despite possessing incredibly powerful telescopes and the tools to scan the cosmos, humanity has received absolutely nothing back. It's a puzzle scientists refer to as the Great Silence. Think about it. There are no confirmed messages, no verified spacecraft, no alien artifacts. The universe seems vast enough to hold countless civilizations, yet we hear nothing. Why? Well, maybe advanced civilizations are just extremely rare, maybe they're simply too far away, or perhaps intelligent life communicates in ways human beings just do not understand yet. So, are we alone? Or is the ultimate answer just beyond our current reach? I know, this explainer leaves us on a pretty massive cliffhanger today, but the mystery is far from over. As governments collect more data and artificial intelligence helps us analyze the cosmos, we are definitely getting closer to the truth. Be sure to catch part 4, where we're going to explore the future of alien discovery and what first contact could truly mean for humanity.
Today, we are tackling what is, without a doubt, humanity's greatest mystery. We're talking about the absolute paradigm-shifting implications of finding out that, hey, we might actually not be the only ones out here in the dark.
Okay, let's dive into this. Are we alone? For thousands of years, our ancestors have stood under the night sky, looked up at the stars, and asked this exact, monumental question. It's the single most enduring mystery of our entire existence. It's this massive question that literally bridges every culture, every era, and every civilization in human history.
And it really is the ultimate quest. This isn't just some modern sci-fi fascination. As you can see right here, the search for extraterrestrial life has become one of the greatest quests in human history. We've gone from ancient civilizations swapping myths about star gods and flaming chariots in the sky, all the way to the realm of hard data, astrophysics, and seriously heavily funded government investigations. This deep-rooted curiosity has evolved from just philosophical pondering into a very rigorous, highly mathematical pursuit.
Let's kick things off with Section 1, a universe of possibilities, and the staggering scale of the cosmos.
So, I want to shift your perspective for a quick second. Just take a mental step off of Earth and look out into the unimaginable vastness of space. Just think about the numbers for a moment. We are talking hundreds of billions of stars in our galaxy alone. And you know what? That is just one single galaxy. Beyond the Milky Way lie billions of other galaxies, and each of those is packed with its own billions of stars. To put that into perspective, there are actually more stars in the observable universe than there are grains of sand on all the beaches on Earth combined. The scale is it's absolutely staggering. And around many of those countless stars, we now know for a fact, orbit planets. Which brings us to a massive game changer. Modern observatories, like the Kepler and the James Webb Space Telescopes, have completely flipped the script for scientists. What once seemed extraordinary, finding a planet beyond our own solar system, now appears completely normal. Rocky worlds like Earth, planets with vast oceans hidden under ice and life-supporting atmospheres, they aren't the exception anymore. Actually, because planets are just so incredibly common, scientists are no longer sitting around wondering if life exists out there. Instead, they're asking, how often does intelligent life develop in these fertile cosmic environments?
Moving on to Section 2, the methodical scientific search and separating fact from fiction.
So how do we actually find them? Well, we look for atmospheric fingerprints. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is exactly what we're searching for. All around the world, scientists are using insanely powerful radio telescopes and launching space probes to scan the atmospheres of distant planets. They're actively looking for specific chemical fingerprints, mostly oxygen, methane, and water vapor. Now, you might be wondering, why those specific gases? Well, on Earth, methane and oxygen react and destroy each other really quickly. So if we see them existing together on a distant world, it strongly implies something. Most likely, biological activity is actively pumping them into that atmosphere right at this very moment. But, okay, here is a reality check. Extraordinary discoveries require extraordinary proof, right? Unlike the fast-paced action of a sci-fi movie where a spaceship just, scans a whole planet in 3 seconds, this real-life scientific search is incredibly slow. It's methodical. It relies entirely on meticulous measurements, concrete observations, repeating those observations over years, and above all, a ton of patience. We need hard, undeniable evidence before making the greatest announcement in human history.
Which leads into Section 3, reimagining alien life and breaking those old stereotypes.
Say we actually do find that hard evidence. What are we really looking at? We definitely need to set some realistic expectations here, and this brilliantly illustrates the massive gap between fiction and reality. You can pretty much forget the Hollywood pop culture myths on the left, humanoids with huge heads, giant eyes, zipping around in shiny silver saucers. Scientific reality, over on the right, suggests something vastly different. Alien life could be entirely microscopic. We're talking maybe simple organisms just surviving beneath the icy surfaces of distant moons like Europa or Enceladus. You've got to remember, life out there would evolve under completely different conditions. Different gravity, different stellar radiation, totally different atmospheres. Their biology could literally be completely unrecognizable to anything we've ever found on Earth.
However, if simple life exists out there, intelligent civilizations might too. And here's a wild thought. Some of them could be millions of years older than humanity. If they do exist, they could possess interstellar travel, highly advanced artificial intelligence, or even planetary engineering. Think about what planetary engineering actually means for a second. We're talking about a civilization capable of harnessing the energy of their entire star or literally moving planets around within their solar system. From our current human perspective, technology that advanced would basically look like magic. Yet, we still have to remember, the absolutely vast distances between star systems remain a huge hurdle for any civilization, no matter how crazy advanced their engineering might be.
Let's explore that in Section 4, the day of first contact, reality and reaction.
But let's just say they do overcome that distance, or their signal finally reaches us. Imagine the moment this concrete procedure actually kicks in. Step 1, a signal is detected, and crucially, it repeats. Step 2, it gets verified by independent observatories globally to make absolutely sure it's not just a glitch, some satellite reflection, or random human interference. Step 3, scientists examine the evidence and world governments are officially informed. And finally, Step 4, the public learns the truth. Humanity realizes we are no longer alone. It would, without a single doubt, be the most important event in human history.
But think about it. How would the world actually react? Would it be this beautiful moment of global celebration or one of profound, paralyzing fear? The literal second the news breaks, religious leaders, scientists, politicians, and ordinary citizens would be grappling with a massive, unprecedented paradigm shift. Basically, everything we thought we knew would change overnight, and everyone across the globe would be demanding the exact same answers. Who are they? Where do they come from? And most importantly, what do they want?
This brings us to a slightly darker thought in Section 5, the Great Filter, an existential threat. If the universe is so incredibly vast, and planets are so insanely common, why is it so quiet? Why hasn't this contact happened yet? Well, this brings us to the Great Filter. So the crucial point is, this is a deeply troubling theory that attempts to answer that exact paradox. The theory suggests that there might be an incredibly difficult, almost impossible barrier in evolutionary development. Maybe life rarely begins in the first place, or maybe complex intelligence rarely evolves. Or perhaps, most terrifyingly, advanced civilizations inevitably unlock technologies, things like unconstrained nuclear power or superintelligent AI, that lead to their own sudden destruction before they can ever spread across the stars. Which leaves humanity facing an incredibly heavy existential question. Does the Great Filter lie behind us? Meaning, have we already survived the hardest part of our evolutionary journey? Or does it lie ahead of us? If advanced civilizations inevitably hit a technological wall and destroy themselves, that carries absolutely terrifying implications for humanity's own future. It essentially means the total silence of the universe is actually a warning.
But let's look at the bright side in Section 6, humanity's cosmic future, the mirror of the cosmos.
Rather than dwelling on the dark, let's move to and see how this builds into our own expanding footprint. Just a century ago, we started broadcasting television and radar signals into space at the speed of light, creating this expanding bubble of information that anyone out there listening might already be detecting. Now look at the near future. We are actively developing new spacecraft right now to establish permanent, sustainable settlements on the moon. The next monumental step is putting human outposts on Mars. And looking into the distant future, we're aiming for worlds way beyond our own solar system.
The search that started with ancient stargazers is rapidly evolving into direct, physical exploration. Ultimately, though, the search for alien life isn't actually just about aliens. It's a mirror reflecting our own existence. It is a quest to truly understand ourselves. Where did we come from? How rare is conscious life? What is our true place in this gigantic, vast universe? Whether we find a tiny, fossilized microbe beneath an icy moon or decode a complex radio signal from a hyper-advanced civilization, every single discovery transforms our understanding of our own story. It's driven by pure, unfiltered human curiosity.
Which brings our explainer perfectly full circle. Right now, no confirmed alien civilization has been discovered. The absolute greatest mystery in human history remains unsolved. But somewhere, out there among the countless stars, another world may exist. Another civilization might be looking into their own night sky right at this very moment, driven by that exact same curiosity, wondering the exact same thing we are. Are we alone in the universe? But maybe the better, more provocative question to leave you with today is this. If the day comes when that radio silence is finally broken, are we truly ready for the answer?